the Reaper's arrival. The stars hung like scattered diamonds against the black canvas of space, their ancient light bearing witness to what would become known as humanity's finest hour. In the Kepler 442 system, the peaceful farming colonies of New Haven and Prosperity Station went about their daily routines, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. Commander Zethrak of the Corvini Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the blue-green world spin lazily below. His scaled hands gripped the command rail as he surveyed the human settlements through the massive viewport. These creatures called humans had spread far from their origin world, establishing colonies throughout this sector of the galaxy. It was time to bring them under proper rule. The Corvani Empire had conquered 17 different species across the galaxy. Each time, the process remained the same. A show of overwhelming force, demands for surrender, and then integration into the Empire's vast network of client races. The humans would be no different. Their technology was primitive, their military scattered, and their governments fractured. They would fall in line just like all the others. Zethrak's communications officer, a young Corvani named Veltok, approached with a data tablet. "Commander, our fleet is in position. 200 warships surrounding both human colonies. Long range. Scanners show minimal defensive capabilities on the surface." The commander's reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. "Excellent. Begin the standard protocol. Open channels to all human settlements and transmit our terms." Across both colonies, every communication device suddenly activated with an incoming transmission. The image of Commander Zethrak appeared on screens throughout New Haven and Prosperity Station. His voice, translated through universal communicators, carried the weight of absolute authority. "Humans of the Kepler 442 system, I am Commander Zethrak of the Corvani Empire. Your worlds are now under Imperial jurisdiction. You have 72 hours to evacuate all military personnel and prepare for peaceful transition to Imperial rule. Any resistance will be met with decisive action. This is your only warning." On New Haven, Governor Patricia Chen stared at the transmission with growing horror. Through her office window, she could see the alien ships dotting the sky like dark clouds. Her aide, a young man named David Park, burst into the room. "Governor, we're receiving reports from Prosperity Station. The same message, the same ships, they've surrounded both colonies simultaneously." Chen activated her emergency communication array, sending an immediate distress signal toward Earth. "Priority Alpha transmission to Earth Command. We are under immediate threat from an alien force calling itself the Corvani Empire. Request immediate military assistance. They've given us 72 hours before they take action." The message would take 6 hours to reach Earth through the quantum communication network. Chen could only hope help would come in time. Meanwhile, in the depths of space near Earth's moon, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Captain Sarah Mitchell, known to her crew as Ghost for her ability to appear seemingly from nowhere during combat operations, stood in the briefing room of humanity's most classified military installation. The room was filled with the highest-ranking officials in the Earth Defense Force. Admiral Robert Kane, a weathered veteran of 3 different colonial conflicts, stepped forward to address the assembled officers. "Ladies and gentlemen, 12 hours ago we received the distress call from New Haven. Our long-range scouts confirm the presence of a massive alien fleet in the Kepler 442 system. Intelligence estimates put their force at over 200 warships." Murmur ran through the room. Captain Mitchell remained silent, her gray eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the alien fleet's positions. Admiral Kane continued, "The aliens have identified themselves as the Corvani Empire. Our Xenology department has no previous records of this species, but their message suggests they operate on a conquest-based expansion model. They expect us to surrender our colonies without a fight." "What's our response, Admiral?" asked Colonel Harrison, commander of Earth's Rapid Response Fleet. Kane's expression hardened. "We're sending the Reaper." The room fell silent. Every officer present knew about the Reaper, though few had seen it in action. The most advanced warship ever constructed. By human hands, it represented 15 years of cutting-edge research and development. Built in absolute secrecy, It incorporated technology that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Captain Mitchell stepped forward. "The Reaper is ready for deployment, Admiral. My crew has been training for exactly this scenario." "Captain," Kane said, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's hopes, "you understand the stakes. 2 million colonists are counting on us. The Corvani Empire cannot be allowed to establish a foothold in human space." Mitchell nodded. "We'll deliver our response personally, sir." 6 hours later, the Reaper emerged from Earth's shadow. Unlike the bulky industrial designs of most human spacecraft, the Reaper was sleek and predatory. Its hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it appear as a moving shadow against the stars. Advanced stealth systems rendered it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. On the bridge, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, the ship's tactical officer, ran final systems checks. "All weapon systems online, Captain. Quantum displacement drives ready for jump. Stealth field at maximum efficiency." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's chief science officer, looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm still detecting some quantum fluctuations in the new shield matrix. The technology is so advanced that we're still learning how it behaves under combat conditions." Mitchell settled into the captain's chair, her hands steady despite the magnitude of what lay ahead. "We've trained for this moment for 3 years, people. Every simulation, every drill has prepared us for this confrontation. Today, we show the galaxy what it means to threaten human lives." The Reaper's quantum drives activated with a sound like whispered thunder. Space folded around the ship as it entered the quantum tunnel that would carry it across interstellar distances in mere hours. The journey to Kepler 442 had begun. Back in the Kepler system, Commander Zethrak received regular updates from his scouts. No human military response had been detected. No evacuation ships had launched from either colony. The humans appeared to be ignoring his ultimatum entirely. "Perhaps they don't understand the seriousness of their situation," suggested Veltok. "Their technology might not be advanced enough to comprehend our capabilities." Zethrak considered this. The Corvani had encountered primitive species before. Sometimes they required a demonstration of imperial power before they accepted reality. Prepare a surgical strike on one of their smaller settlements. Nothing too destructive, just enough to show them we mean business. Before the order could be carried out, the Corvani fleet sensors detected something impossible. A single ship had appeared at the edge of the system, emerging from what appeared to be a quantum tunnel. The energy signature was unlike anything in their databases. "Commander," the sensor operator called out, his voice uncertain, "we have an unknown contact. Single vessel approaching from the outer system. Its design doesn't match any known human spacecraft in our records." Zethrak moved to the sensor station, studying the readings. The ship was small compared to his fleet, but there was something about its energy signature that troubled him. "Can you get a visual?" The main screen shifted to show the approaching vessel. The Reaper moved through space with an almost organic grace, its dark hull making it difficult to track visually. As it drew closer, its true nature became apparent. This was not a diplomatic vessel or a cargo ship. This was a warship, built for one purpose only. "They sent one ship," Zethrak said, disbelief coloring his voice. "One ship against our entire fleet. The arrogance is astounding." The communications officer's console suddenly activated. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. They're requesting to speak with you directly." Zethrak's scales rippled with what humans would recognize as amusement. "By all means, let's hear what they have to say." The screen filled with the image of Captain Sarah Mitchell. Her human features were calm, almost relaxed, as if she were discussing the weather rather than facing down a fleet of 200 warships. When she spoke, her voice carried an unmistakable note of authority. "Commander Zethrak of the Corvani Empire, I am Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force vessel Reaper. I'm here to deliver humanity's response to your ultimatum." Zethrak leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. "Captain Mitchell, I admire your courage in coming here, though I question your judgment. One ship cannot stand against an Imperial fleet. Mitchell's expression didn't change. Commander, you seem to be operating under several misconceptions about humanity. First, you assume we're a primitive species that will surrender when faced with superior numbers. Second, you believe that military strength is measured purely by quantity rather than capability. And third, you think that because you've conquered other species, humans will follow the same pattern. The captain paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. I'm here to correct those misconceptions. Humanity has been waiting for this moment, Commander. Not hoping for it, not fearing it, but preparing for it. Every human colony, every settlement, every outpost has been built with one certainty in mind. Someday, somewhere, someone would try to take what belongs to us. Zethrak's amusement was fading, replaced by something he hadn't felt in years. Uncertainty. Captain, your words are brave, but words cannot stand against Imperial firepower. You have one ship, I have 200. The mathematics are simple. Mitchell smiled, and something about that expression made Zethrak's scales tighten with apprehension. Commander, you're about to learn something important about humans. We don't just count ships. We count possibilities. We count contingencies. We count the ways that supposedly impossible victories can become inevitable defeats. She leaned forward slightly, her gray eyes fixed on the camera. Here's humanity's response to your ultimatum, Commander. You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleet from this system. Any Corvani vessel that remains after that deadline will be considered an act of continued aggression against human colonies. Zethrak couldn't contain his laughter. Captain, surely you don't expect me to withdraw an entire Imperial fleet because one human ship asks politely? I'm not asking, Commander, Mitchell replied, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more threat than any shout. I'm telling you, 1 hour. After that, we stop being polite. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Corvani flagship in stunned silence. Zethrak stared at the screen for a long moment before turning to his tactical officer. Sensor analysis of their vessel. I want to know everything about their capabilities. The tactical officer worked frantically at his console before looking up with confusion. Commander, I'm getting inconsistent readings. Their energy output suggests advanced reactor technology, but the power distribution patterns don't match anything in our databases. It's as if their entire ship is operating on principles we don't understand. Zethrak felt the first stirring of genuine concern. In his 50 years of Imperial service, he had never encountered a species that surprised him. Every conquest had followed predictable patterns. But something about the human captain's confidence suggested that humanity had resources the Corvani hadn't anticipated. Signal the fleet, he ordered. All ships to battle stations. Target the human vessel and prepare to fire on my command. As the Corvani fleet prepared for what they expected would be a brief demonstration of Imperial power, the Reaper continued its steady approach. On the human ship's bridge, Captain Mitchell watched the alien fleet's movements with professional interest. They're moving to surround us, Lieutenant Webb reported. Classic envelopment pattern, textbook Imperial tactics. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her readings. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups across their fleet. They're charging weapons, Mitchell nodded calmly. As expected. Marcus, are our systems ready? All systems green, Captain. Quantum shields at full power. Displacement drives ready for combat maneuvering. Weapon systems armed and targeted. Elena, how are our new toys performing? Dr. Vasquez smiled. The quantum displacement field is stable. The temporal distortion generators are online. And Captain... She paused dramatically. The singularity cannon is ready for its first field test. Mitchell stood from her chair, her eyes fixed on the approaching Corvani fleet. Gentlemen, lady, today we write a new chapter in human history. Today we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't just survive threats, we overcome them. The Reaper continued its approach, a single dark ship against an armada of alien vessels. But appearances, as the Corvani Empire was about to discover, could be very deceiving indeed. When humans say no. The hour passed like a held breath across the Kepler 442 system. On New Haven, colonists gathered in emergency shelters, watching their skies through reinforced windows as alien ships hung like storm clouds above their world. On Prosperity Station, families huddled together in the lower decks listening to emergency broadcasts that offered little comfort and less information. But on the bridge of the Reaper, Captain Sarah Mitchell stood with the calm confidence of someone who had prepared for this moment her entire career. The countdown timer on her tactical display showed 3 minutes and 17 seconds remaining until the deadline she had given Commander Zethrak. "Captain," Lieutenant Webb reported from his station, "Corvani fleet is holding position. No sign of withdrawal. They've formed a classic battlesphere around us, 200 ships, all weapons trained on our position." Dr. Vasquez looked up from her science console, her face illuminated by the soft glow of quantum field readings. Energy patterns suggest they're confident in their overwhelming numerical advantage. They're not even attempting to mask their weapon signatures. Mitchell nodded, unsurprised. "They've conquered 17 species using the same tactics, Elena. Numbers, intimidation, and overwhelming firepower. It's worked for them before." "But not today," Webb said, his fingers dancing over his tactical controls. "No," Mitchell agreed. "Not today." The timer reached 0. Across the Corvani fleet, weapons officers waited for the command to fire. Commander Zethrak stood on his bridge, staring at the lone human ship that had dared to issue an ultimatum to the Imperial fleet. The human captain's confidence had been unsettling but ultimately meaningless. One ship, no matter how advanced, could not stand against the combined might of the Corvani Empire. "All vessels report ready to fire, Commander," announced his tactical officer. "Target locked and acquired." Zethrak's scaled hand hovered over the firing control. Fire. 200 Corvani warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams that could crack planets converged on the Reaper's position. The space around the human ship became a maelstrom of deadly radiation and quantum fire. For a moment, it seemed as if the human vessel had been completely obliterated. The energy discharge was so intense that it temporarily blinded even the Corvani fleet's sensors. When the readings cleared, Zethrak expected to see nothing but scattered debris. Instead, the Reaper hung in space exactly where it had been before, apparently unharmed. "Impossible," breathed the tactical officer. "Direct hits from 200 ships, nothing could survive that." Captain Mitchell's voice suddenly filled the Corvani bridge through their communication systems. "Commander Zethrak, you seem surprised. Did you really think we would come here unprepared?" On the Reaper's bridge, Dr. Vasquez monitored the quantum shield readings. "Shield effectiveness at 97%, Captain. The quantum displacement field absorbed most of the impact and redirected it into subspace. We barely felt it." Mitchell activated the ship-wide communication system. "Attention, Corvani fleet. That was your free shot. Now let me show you what human engineering looks like when we're serious." The Reaper's hull began to shimmer with an otherworldly light. Energy patterns that violated several known laws of physics cascaded across its surface. Then impossibly, the ship began to multiply. What had been one vessel suddenly became 5 identical ships, each moving in perfect synchronization, then 10, then 20. Within seconds, a full squadron of Reapers faced the Corvani fleet. "Holographic projection," Webb explained to his concerned-looking colleagues. "But each projection is solid enough to fool their sensors and weapons. They don't know which one is real." Commander Zethrak stared at the tactical display in growing disbelief. "All ships, fire at will. Target every human vessel." The Corvani fleet opened fire again, this time spreading their shots across multiple targets. But as their weapons struck the holographic Reapers, something extraordinary happened. Instead of being destroyed, the false ships absorbed the weapon energy and redirected it back at the Corvani fleet. The first wave of reflected energy struck 3 Corvani cruisers, overloading their shields and sending them spinning helplessly through space. The second wave disabled an entire squadron of destroyers. By the third volley, the Corvani fleet was shooting at shadows and hitting themselves. "Cease fire," Zethrak commanded, but it was too late. His own weapons had turned against him, and nearly a quarter of his fleet was already disabled or destroyed. "Captain," Mitchell's voice cut through the chaos on the Corvani frequencies. "Commander, you're learning something important about humanity. We don't just build weapons. We build weapons that think. We build weapons that adapt. We build weapons that turn your strengths into our advantages. The holographic Reapers faded away, leaving only the original ship floating serenely in the center of the devastated Corvani formation. Zethrak's hands trembled as he gripped his command rail. What? What are you? Mitchell's image appeared on the main screen. Her expression calm, but her eyes burning with an intensity that made even the hardened Corvani commander take a step back. We are humans, Commander, and we are tired of being underestimated. She gestured, and the tactical display behind her showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the 17 worlds that the Corvani Empire had conquered. Do you see this pattern, Commander? 17 conquests, 17 species that surrendered when faced with overwhelming odds. You've become predictable. You rely on fear and numbers because it's always worked before. The display shifted, showing detailed tactical analyses of each Corvani conquest. But humans study history, Commander. We study patterns. We study failures. For the past 50 years, ever since we detected the first signs of your expansion into this sector, we've been preparing for this exact moment. Zethrak found his voice. You've been watching us? Learning from you, Mitchell corrected. Every conquest you made, every species you subjugated, every tactical decision you implemented, we analyzed it all. We found the flaws in your strategy, the weaknesses in your technology, the gaps in your thinking. The Reaper began to move again, not toward the Corvani fleet, but past it, heading directly toward Commander Zethrak's flagship. See, Commander, you made the same mistake that every bully makes. You assumed that because you could defeat the unprepared, you could defeat everyone, but humans don't stay unprepared. We adapt, we evolve, we learn. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her console with something approaching amazement. Captain, I'm reading massive system failures across the Corvani fleet. It's as if their own technology is turning against them. Webb grinned from his tactical station. Quantum virus deployment successful, Captain. Their computer systems are now running human-designed code. They're experiencing what we call aggressive technical difficulties. Mitchell smiled coldly. Commander Zethrak, meet humanity's real weapon. Not superior firepower, not advanced technology, but superior thinking. While you were busy conquering primitive species, we were learning how to conquer you. Across the Corvani fleet, ship after ship reported the same problems. Navigation systems were routing them in circles. Weapons computers were targeting their own vessels. Communication arrays were broadcasting embarrassing personal messages from crew members to their families. But the Reaper wasn't finished demonstrating human capabilities. Elena, Mitchell said quietly, activate the singularity cannon. Doctor. Vasquez's hands moved over her controls with practiced precision. Singularity cannon online, Captain. Target? Mitchell studied the tactical display, selecting a massive Corvani dreadnought that had been trying to maneuver into firing position. That one. Minimum power setting. We want to make a point, not commit genocide. Understood, Captain. Firing. A beam of coherent darkness shot from the Reaper toward the targeted dreadnought. Where it struck, space itself seemed to twist and fold. The massive Corvani ship began to compress, not destroyed but somehow reduced in size while maintaining its structural integrity. Within seconds, a ship that had been 2 kilometers long was now the size of a shuttlecraft, its crew unharmed but thoroughly humbled. The effect on the rest of the Corvani fleet was immediate and profound. Ships that had been advancing on the Reaper suddenly reversed course. Others simply powered down their weapons and waited. Commander, Zethrak's voice came across the communication channel, shaken and uncertain. Captain Mitchell, what do you want from us? Mitchell's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. What we've always wanted, Commander. To be left alone, to live in peace, to raise our families and explore the stars without fear of conquest. She paused, studying the alien commander's face. You've spent decades convincing yourselves that might makes right, that the strong have the natural right to rule the weak. But strength isn't just about firepower, Commander. It's about will. It's about determination. It's about the absolute refusal to surrender what matters to you. The Reaper continued its approach to the Corvani flagship, but now its movement seemed less threatening and more like a teacher approaching a student. Humans have been fighting for survival since we first stood upright on our homeworld. We've faced ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed weaker species. We've learned that the only way to survive is to never give up, never surrender, and never stop improving. Mitchell stood from her captain's chair and walked to the main view screen, placing her hand against the transparent aluminum as if she could reach through space to touch the alien commander. Commander Zethrak, I'm going to give you something that none of your previous conquests could offer. I'm going to give you a choice. The Corvani bridge fell silent. You can withdraw your fleet from human space and return to your empire. Spread the word that humanity is not to be conquered. Tell your leaders that Earth and its colonies are under the protection of forces they cannot comprehend or overcome. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. Or you can continue this fight. You can call for reinforcements. You can bring every ship in your empire to bear against us. And we will defeat them all one by one, until your empire learns what it means to threaten human lives. Commander Zethrak stared at the human captain, his reptilian features showing emotions that his species rarely experienced. Fear, yes, but also something else. Respect. You would spare us? I would give you the opportunity to make a better choice, Mitchell replied. Humanity doesn't seek conquest, Commander. We seek coexistence, but we will defend ourselves against anyone who threatens our people. Dr. Vasquez quietly reported from her station. Captain, I'm detecting massive quantum signatures, approaching from the outer system. It looks like She paused, checking her readings again. It looks like more human ships are arriving. Mitchell smiled. The cavalry, right on schedule. Through the quantum tunnel that the Reaper had used, a fleet of human vessels began to emerge. Not hundreds of ships like the Corvani fleet, but dozens of vessels that radiated the same impossible energy signatures as the Reaper. Commander, Mitchell said, her voice carrying across space to the alien flagship. Meet the Earth Defense Fleet. We've been building ships like the Reaper for 15 years, ever since we first detected your empire's expansion. Each one represents the combined technological advancement of our entire species. Zethrak watched as the human fleet took formation around his disabled vessels. Unlike the aggressive positioning of a conquering force, they arranged themselves as protectors, guardians, standing watch over the Corvani ships. This is humanity's message to the galaxy, Commander. We will not be conquered. We will not be intimidated. We will not surrender our freedom to anyone, no matter how powerful they believe themselves to be. Mitchell returned to her captain's chair, her posture relaxed but her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. But we also don't seek to replace one empire with another. We offer you safe passage home, Commander. Take your fleet, return to your space, and deliver this message. Humanity stands ready to defend itself, but we also stand ready to coexist with anyone who approaches us in peace. Commander Zethrak looked around his bridge at officers who had served the Empire faithfully for decades. Each face showed the same realization that was dawning on him. The Corvani Empire's age of easy conquest was over. Captain Mitchell, he said finally, your message will be delivered. The Empire will know that humanity is not to be trifled with. Thank you, Commander. Safe travels. One by one, the Corvani fleet began to withdraw from the system. Ships that had arrived as conquerors departed as messengers, carrying word throughout the galaxy that a new power had emerged among the stars. As the last Corvani vessel disappeared into hyperspace, Captain Mitchell turned to her crew. Well done, everyone. Today, humanity announced its presence on the galactic stage. But more importantly, we proved that freedom is not something to be granted by the powerful. It's something to be defended by the determined. Lieutenant Webb looked up from his station with a grin. Captain, we're receiving messages from colonies throughout human space. Word is spreading fast. The Terran Defense Fleet just won humanity's first interstellar war without firing a shot. Dr. Vasquez shook her head in amazement. Actually, Marcus, I think we did something even more impressive. We won a war without starting one. Captain Mitchell gazed out at the stars where human colonies could once again sleep safely under alien skies. No, she said quietly. We did. Something that will echo through history. We showed the galaxy that humanity is not just another species to be conquered or ignored. We're a force for freedom, determination, and the absolute refusal to bow to tyranny. The Reaper turned toward home, its mission complete but its legend just beginning. Across the galaxy, the word would spread. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same.